Okay, welcome back. This is I think our 7th career panel this year, the 7th and the last one this year. We are going to send out a survey. If you can fill it out, that would be amazing. Asking you what you came to this year, what you enjoyed, and what you might want to see next year. So, welcome. This is our public service career panel. And quickly, I would love to see who's in the audience so our panelists can kind of know who you're talking to. Let me see all the freshmen. Can you raise your hand? Do we have any freshmen? Awesome. Okay, sophomores. Okay, juniors. All right, seniors. All right, so we've got a good array of students from every level. Okay, so come on in, sit down. Welcome. Before we get started, I just want to say, public services is a great career option. You're going to get to hear from 3 different panelists today. Public service job is basically one in which you work for the government, an organization contracted by the government, or a nonprofit organization doing work that benefits the public. So that's a general description. But today we have 3 fabulous panelists, and I'm going to have each of them introduce themselves, tell us what your job is, give us a sense of who you are, and we'll go down the line. I'll pass it down. So we're going to 10 minutes total overall, but we're going to have 3 or 4 questions, and each of you get to answer.
Sorry.
Good question. No, good question.
You want me to cover
Because you
everything?
can talk a long time.
Yeah, I'm covering everything you know right now.
Yeah.
All right, sorry. I'm Steve Islander. I'm a captain paramedic with the city of Bailey City. I've been doing it for 22 years. I was, a little bit about me, when I was in high school, I was a horrible student, and I got a little bit of trouble. And so I left school early. That's not a popular thing to tell people, but that's my story. So I left school early. I don't like the term dropped out. I tested out and went to work. And I went to work in the trade. I was a carpenter. Well, I was an apprentice and then I was a carpenter. During that time, I did a bunch of different jobs. I was a plumber's apprentice for a while. I was a truck driver, drove fuel tankers for a while. I was a telephone lineman. And all this time, I had a friend who was getting the fire service. And I went to visit him up in Washington, and I did a ride-along, and I absolutely loved what he did. And so I decided I wanted to do that. However, because I had a little bit of fear, and there was a lot of steps I had to take to do it, I didn't jump right into it. I just thought about it. And I talked about it a lot. And finally, I was talking about it with a friend, and I told her, it's going to be like 4 years of stuff I have to do because I left school early. And I'll be like 28 when I get hired. And that to me seemed so old. And she said, well, how old will you be in 4 years if you don't get hired? So I said, well, I'll be 28. So I might as well do this stuff. So that's when I went to school. So I went to, first thing I did was EMT school. Shortly after that, I got a job in an ambulance. And I drove an ambulance in Vallejo. And after that, I went I had to go back and do general ed. I did a Firefighter 1 Academy. I went up to College of the Siskiyous, which is up kind of by the Oregon border. I did a Firefighter 1 Academy. And then when I got back from that, I had to go back to college to take classes so that I could go to paramedic school. While I was in paramedic school, so this is a process of about 3 years for me. While I was in paramedic school, I got hired in Bailey City. And I finished paramedic school after I got hired. And I was a firefighter for 8 years, and then I promoted to captain. And I've been a captain ever since.
Captain Alvin, tell us about yourself.
Hi, everybody. That was actually super interesting. I was listening to him probably just like you guys were. And it made me think that I think the one takeaway you're going to get from all of us today is that whatever you do, there's no one right answer. Like every person in this room, by the time you're our age, you're going to have your own unique path that got you to wherever you are. So I just want to say that whatever you're feeling right now, whether it's from home or from school, if you feel like there's only one path to success, that's absolutely not true. And I think you're probably going to get that from all three of us today. So I'm your police chief here in Half Moon Bay. I also oversee the entire unincorporated coast, so basically everything from Pacifica down to Santa Cruz. Oftentimes when I go to events with my staff that work for me, you know, people will assume that like the big tall guys are the boss, and especially the older people, I feel like they're really surprised when they're like, oh no, she's our boss. So that's kind of the other takeaway is don't let anybody limit you, and don't let anybody make you feel like whatever your dreams are not possible, because the only one that can prevent you from being successful is yourself in here. I was a musical theater major in college. I thought I wanted to go run off to New York and sing and act, and that was going to be the path. I did musicals in high school. I played soccer, and then I hurt my knee and I couldn't play soccer anymore, so I had to find out something else to do. So I started doing plays and musicals. And then when I was waiting tables in college, because that's what you do, I used to see all the cops coming in and out of the restaurant, and I used to see how people would treat them and talk to them, and you know, I'd see them go running out and drive away with the lights and sirens on, and I thought that was pretty cool. And they looked like all of you, and they looked like me. There were men and women and different races and backgrounds and ages, and you name it. They didn't look like what I had been raised seeing on TV. And it kind of blew my mind to think like, hey, normal people can do this job. So similarly, I was in college. I started applying to police departments, and I got hired, and I dropped out of college. I had one semester left to go to finish my bachelor's degree, so my parents thought, you know, I had ruined my life. But I went off to the police academy, and I became a police officer. And I worked for the Millbrae Police Department for almost 8 years. I worked patrol, and I was a canine handler, which was like the greatest job ever. Anybody have pets? Yeah. So imagine if you guys love your animals, getting to bring them with you to work and hang out with your pet all the time and get paid for it. It's not a bad gig. Anyway, back in 2012, the Millbrae Police Department got taken over by the Sheriff's Office. And I've worked for the Sheriff's Office ever since. I've worked my way up through the ranks. I've spent a decent amount of time in corrections at every rank, because that's one of the things that we do with the Sheriff's Office is we oversee the courts and jails. And another thing that we do is that we have a patrol in contract cities. And the Half Moon Bay Police Department is one of our contract cities. And so that's why I'm the chief here. We also have San Carlos on the Bay side, and we have Woodside Portola Valley, and we also have the Millbrae Police Department. They're all patrol bureaus now. So every patrol bureau has a chief, just like me. I'm our youngest one, and that's kind of something that makes me feel really good about myself. I also will say that along the line of now 18 years, I did finish my bachelor's degree eventually, and then I went back and got my master's degree as well. So, like I said at the beginning, what it all circles back to is there's no one right path. When I left college, my parents thought I was ruining my life. And now I'm in charge of everybody that works in this city in law enforcement, and I have my master's degree. So you guys just need to figure out what's right for you and stay true to it, and you'll be successful and you'll be happy.
My name is Aaron Gilbert. I graduated from Half Moon Bay High in 2002, so it's been a little bit of time. I'm a lead operator for Sewer Authority Mid Coast Side, which is the sewage treatment plant here, just a little bit north of where we are right now. I graduated and knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to work in the biotech industry. And so I went to San Jose State University. I played football there. I served a mission for my church, and then I graduated with a degree in biochemistry. And I started working in the biotech industry over in Morgan Hill, and I thought it was really cool and interesting. I was purifying proteins for therapeutic use. So have you guys heard of Factor VIII? You guys heard of human growth hormone, antibodies, those types of things? I was purifying those proteins for testing them, making sure that they're working right. But I saw that there was a glass ceiling. I couldn't progress past a certain point because I didn't have a PhD. And I didn't like that. I didn't like how that feeling of being capped off. And so I kind of searched around and tried to find a spot that I could help people, that I could use my degree, that wouldn't give me a career stopping point, that I could keep going. And I fell into wastewater. That's a joke. I'm laughing at that. Okay, I got a few shuttles. And so for me, it was a very interesting situation. I am able to help serve this community in which I grew up in, and I live here now, and I love being here. I'm able to use my degree every day. I deal with microbes and chemicals and the physics of water, making sure that everything is compliant to the government's environmental standards, making sure everything is kosher and working properly. And I'm currently going back to UCLA to get my master's in environmental engineering so that I can further progress the plant here, but also my career will have more options as I do that. I think that's the basics of who I am.
Okay, so the beauty of public service is it's an industry that is not going to go anywhere. So careers in public service are fantastic to get into. Tell us a little bit about a typical day at your job.
So for the Sewer Authority Midcoast side, there are 3 different groups of people. There are people who work in collections, there are people who work as maintenance personnel, and then you have operators. So the collections people, you'll see them around with that big Vector truck. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that, but they'll go and make sure that all the sewer lines leaving your houses going to our plant are clear and functioning properly, because figure that you guys don't want your toilets backing up, right? It's not a fun thing. Well, you've got to clear your own toilets, but once it gets into the street, that's our job. We make sure the streets are clean, obviously underneath. The maintenance workers, those guys make sure that all the pumps and equipment and instrumentation is functioning properly, whether it's the electrical stuff or the motors need to be tuned up, or replacing motors, or making sure that the instrument is calibrated properly. That's our maintenance personnel. Then after that, we have the operators, which is what I'm part of. And the operators make sure that all the equipment is functioning properly as it's treating the water, so that we make sure that the machines are moving properly, not too fast, not too slow, making sure we have the right chemicals. We actually have a person every day who's dedicated to doing laboratory work. So they go collect samples from the plant itself, test it to make sure it's doing what we need it to do. And if it isn't, we tell the other people who are in charge of running the plant that day, and we make adjustments to the plant to make sure that we're doing everything properly. And we're able to treat the water so that we're essentially taking good water and turning it into seawater. That's a typical day.
I had to say, I told him I just did a tour there a couple weeks ago, and I went just because I was asked, but I thought it was fascinating. You guys do tours from home?
Every month.
You guys, if anybody's remotely interested, do a tour. It's actually really cool. If you ever flush your toilet or, brush your teeth, you ever occurred to you like where that water goes, he does it. It's pretty cool. A typical day for me is different than the people that work for me. So it's a little difficult to really give you guys the full picture, but the thing about law enforcement in general in the sheriff's office is it's kind of like an umbrella, right? I mean, there's no like one thing that we do. Kind of whatever you're into, you can find a home here. It's sort of almost like the military in that respect. Like there's so many different jobs. You can have a million different kinds of personalities and find a home here. So like, for example, we have like a narcotics task force, a vehicle theft task force. We have community policing that works with the kids. We have the gang task force. We have investigations. We have a bureau at the airport that deals with all the federal stuff. We have cargo theft, when people try and like mail drugs through the mail and stuff like that. They just deal with that. We have people on patrol from the whole county that when you guys call 911, they show up. And then we have sergeants who are like their bosses. So if something happens and somebody wants to complain and they say, I want to talk to your boss, then the sergeant would come and they would, talk to them. And then I'm the boss of the sergeants. So when people get really mad, then they have to come talk to me. So as one of my sergeants told me right before this, because I pulled him into a meeting, my job is completely different than their job. My job is basically meetings, pretty much meetings all the time, which is why I was super excited to come talk to you guys, because it got me out of my office, which is sometimes hard because I have so many emails and so many meetings. And in the position I'm in, everybody always wants your time. And as somebody that wants to be part of this community and make every person in this community feel like I'm there for them, I want to give everybody my time, but there's not that much time to share. And so it's a lot of time management, and it's kind of just doing the best that you can. And whether it's phone calls or Zoom or coming to talk to you guys, just letting everybody know that, me and everybody that works for me, we're kind of here for you guys. So my job is a lot of paper and a lot of phone calls, but everybody else below me gets to do the really cool stuff and drive around and see people all day and help people when they call 911. So that's kind of the long answer to sort of what our day looks like.
So your description of your day is why I choose not to become a chief. One of the cool things about my job is so we have engines and trucks. Engines are smaller, they carry water. Trucks are the big one you see with a big ladder on top. I'm at the truck captain. There's one truck in Daly City, 5 engines. It is a giant toolbox. So we carry everything for rescue, everything for breaking houses, and getting in, and all this stuff. So my day consists of maintaining that, so I'm responsible for that. I have 4 people on my crew, including me, and we're responsible for making sure everything's in working order. So we get there early. Our day starts at 8 o'clock. We get there early to make sure our gear's on the rig, and then we start going through everything, making sure everything's working. And that's a daily process. Once we've done that, we generally will do some training, which means we basically practice using those tools, and sometimes we get to do some pretty cool stuff. And then we'll do inspections. We'll go and inspect businesses and make sure that they're safe for fire safety. And then you kind of never know what your day is going to bring. Like all throughout that, anytime the tones go off, which means we get a call, we go somewhere and we go and you'd be surprised what people call for. We literally last week had a lady call because her neighbor had put trash cans in front of her driveway. So there's silly we get, and then there's very serious. I might find myself, I'm on a medical in someone's living room, and we're walking out of the house, and we get a call, and suddenly I'm wearing different gear, and I'm rappelling down the cliffs in Daly City, come up from that, go back to the station, and suddenly I'm putting on different gear, and I'm going into a fire at a house. And so you just never know what you're going to get, which is what I absolutely love about the job. The variety. It's different stuff every day, and that's why I'm super grateful for that.
Thank you, Steve. That was going to be my question. I love that you went there with, like, what do you love, value, like what makes you excited about your job? What about you is attracted to that kind of work? Like, what would you say? You kind of answered that. We can come back to you again. Oh.
So,
Why don't somebody want to do your job?
So, for me, like I touched on, I love tools. Ever since I was a little kid, I love tools. My dad had tools, I liked using his tools. Which is why I became a carpenter. And it's why today I still do construction, because I absolutely love tools. But the main thing that I love is mealtime. So at the firehouse, we have meals. You probably see the guys out shopping once in a while if you're at a grocery store. So it's kind of a big thing in our firehouse. So there's 7 people in my station. There's 7 people, and we have these big meals, and we make a big deal out of it. And really, what it's about is not the food; it's about the camaraderie. And these are people that I love, and I get to spend my day with them. These amazing people that are dedicated to serving other people, and that is a huge honor. And that's what I love the most. And as I have 8 more years left, and I'm starting to see, like, I'm gonna miss that when that's over, because that's really my favorite thing in the morning is coming in. That's why I get to work early, is because I want to have coffee with the off-road crew and see how they're doing. And that's my favorite part of the job.
It's funny because cops and firefighters, we kind of joke around with each other a lot. Firefighters make fun of cops and cops make fun of firefighters. But at the end of the day, I think the reason that we do it is that same camaraderie that he talked about. Because so much of what he said, I'm listening to it, and it relates to, how I felt and how I feel about, the job that I do. It is similar in that you never know what the day is going to bring. I mean, from the silly stuff to, the super serious that we all know happened, not too long ago out here on the coast. And that's kind of the nature of these jobs, is you show up every day being prepared for what could happen and just dealing with what does happen. And there's days that it's like, it feels like the day is 6 days long because it goes by so slowly. Maybe you have something exciting you want to do after work and you just can't wait to get home, and it's so slow. And then there's other days where you blink and it's already time to go home. Probably like you guys feel in school now. I will say the thing that I love most about this job is, it sounds cliche, but getting to help people, getting to kind of help change perceptions about who we are. I mean, if I'm being honest, I'm sure there's some of you in here who don't like me just because I'm a cop. It's a free country, you can feel that way. I don't think it's the best. I think there's a lot of things going on in our communities and in our country right now that talk about, giving everybody the benefit of the doubt and not judging anybody. So I think it's really important that, we all kind of do that for one another. That said, the nature of this job is whether you like me or not, when you call 911, I'm gonna come help you. And that's never gonna change. And that's what I like about this job. I like that everybody that works for me and everybody that I work for, we do a job that people know that at the end of the day, if you need help, we're gonna come help you. And I think that's important. I think it's something that we all need in our life because some people maybe don't have that any other place, So that's why I did this job, that's why I do this job, is I one day at a time, try to change perceptions of who we are, what we do, and why we do it. And it's allowed me to own my home, have a great family, have good dinners. When I used to work at Millbrae, we had holidays, sometimes we'd have to work. And if we had to work on Thanksgiving or Christmas, we would get together with the fire department because they were right next door, and we would have like a big family style dinner. And it was that same feeling, that we couldn't be with our families, but we were with our second family. So it's not always a fun job, but it's a super rewarding job. And it's worth doing, even on the worst day. It's always worth doing.
Why do I like being a wastewater treatment plant operator? I get the problem solved every day. I like puzzles. So if there's an issue at the plant, if the microbe count is too high, why is that happening? If the water's not as clear as it should be, what's going on? How can we fix that? That for me is really attractive. I get to help the community that I live in, that I grew up in. I get to make really good money. I mean, you guys don't understand, starting out with just a high school education, you can start making $30 an hour straight out of high school. That's a lot of money. It's $60,000 a year. Now, if you keep going up and progressing, you're getting towards 60, 65, and eventually up to like $200,000 a year. That's a lot of money for only having a high school education. If you have a college education, that just speeds your progress quicker. So I was able to jump from a very, what they call it, an entry-level operator to grade 5, which is the highest you can do in 3 years, which I couldn't have done that without my education. And so I love being in this industry because I'm helping the community, I'm helping the environment, I'm getting paid really good, and it's fun. It's enjoyable for me.
Okay, I'm going to ask y'all one more question, and then I'm going to let the students ask a question. And first, I want to say thank you for being so honest about your jobs and like why you love them and where you came from. So that's very appreciated. The real is important. What's one piece of advice that you would give this group of students?
My son's here, he knows I like to give advice. So I would say that the main thing is as you continue in your education here, and if you decide to go to college, just to keep an open mind and know that you don't have to do necessarily what you're going to school for, that you can change paths, and just to kind of follow your heart, and hopefully you can find what you love. I mean, sometimes, my job isn't always wonderful. There's hard days, but it's the career I chose, and I'm very grateful for it. So I think the goal is to keep an open mind and always look for what you want to do in the next step, and ask for help.
Mine would be that education is important. I think there's probably classes that you're in right now that you don't really see the point of being in. but everything leads to everything, you know? So you need to do your best. I know you're all in different grades, but do your best to be successful in high school, because that leads you to be able to get into the college that you want or the job that you want. And similarly, you know, when you're in college, it's the same thing. You know, you do the best you can in college so that you can then get into another college or go do the job that you want. Everything leads to everything. And like I said, you know, I didn't finish college right out of the gate. I stopped to go do what I wanted when I was 22 years old. But after a couple years, I didn't like telling people that I didn't finish college. It didn't feel good to me. I'm not saying anything against anybody that doesn't finish college. Just for me personally, I didn't like the way that I felt I was being judged when I told people that I didn't finish college. And so for me personally, I went back and I finished it. And like I said, I went up and got my master's degree in organizational management, which actually has a lot more to do with my actual job than my musical theater bachelor's degree. And when I did my master's degree, I really enjoyed it. And I actually got a 4.0, and I'm not saying that to brag, I'm saying that because I was never a 4.0 student, because I was probably like some of you where I was like, this is dumb. Like, I'm not going to become a scientist, no offense. I was never good at math, I was never good at science, I got through it, but I never saw the point. When I did my master's degree, there was none of this like classes you have to take. It's like, you're doing it in something that you care about, that's relevant to you, and every class you take is something that you like and that you're interested in, because you know, you don't have to get your master's degree. It's something you're doing because you want to. And I did really well because I really enjoyed what I was learning. So I think it's really important for all of you guys, just stay committed. And even if you're in classes right now that maybe you don't see the point of, just get through it so you can, you know, get further on and start taking things that you are interested in, because I promise you it's worth it. And just like you said, it's, for my career path, it's moved things along so much quicker. I make more money than I would without my degrees. I was able to promote because I had the degrees that I have, so you may not see the point now, but I promise you guys it's worth it. And you'll blink. I mean, my master's degree was, God, I don't know, 7 years ago. And I did that same thing like you said about how old will you be in 4 years, because I kept thinking, oh, I should do it, I should do it. And then I thought, God, if I had just done it, I'd already be done by now. And at the time, it seemed like a lot of work, but now I can't believe how many years it's been. So I promise you guys it's worth it. Just stick to it, all right?
I would agree, education, whether it's an official degree or if it's going through a trade or even just classes on the side or a certificate, education's awesome. But also be willing to do something that nobody else wants to do, that gives you job security. Not many people want to go mess with the loop every day. I'm okay with it. I don't care. It pays well and it's entertaining for me. So that's the 2 pieces of advice I can give.
Okay, do we have any questions from the audience?
Never mind, there's no audience, this is students.
Any questions? Yes.
What would you say to someone who wanted to become a police officer but was afraid of getting hurt in any way?
What would you say to somebody who wanted to become a police officer but was afraid of getting hurt?
I mean, I would say you guys can get hurt doing anything. I have been hurt doing this job, and I'm going on 18 years. When I was on patrol years ago, actually twice. All right, when I was on patrol, I broke my arm at one point, running in the dark on nights after a suspect. And another time, actually as a sergeant, which is funny because when you're a sergeant, similarly, you oversee people. You're supposed to be kind of making sure everybody's doing their job, but I was a hands-on sergeant and got too hands-on, so I got involved in a physical altercation, a fight, basically, that one of my guys needed help, and I broke my collarbone. But that's not bad for 18 years. Everybody gets hurt at some point. I mean, if you guys ride bikes or play soccer or anything, you're gonna get hurt. It's just life. Life is dangerous. But, you know, eat well, honestly, eat well, keep in shape, exercise, and you'll bounce back really quick. I bounced back pretty quick from both of my injuries, and in the grand scheme of things, it's no big deal. So don't be afraid. I mean, just, you can't focus on the things you're afraid of. You need to focus on the things that are important to you. You know, I don't go to work every day thinking, you know, this could be my last day at work, because you can't function like that. You can't be afraid of life. You need to just focus on why you do things and the positives and the happy stuff, and and you'll be fine, because statistically, you're not gonna get hurt that much, and you'll be fine. Stay in shape, eat right, have strong bones, you'll be good.
Any other questions?
Are you happy? Do you find your job fulfilling?
Are you happy? Do you find your job fulfilling?
Yes.
Also, yes.
Yes.
Definitely yes.
All right. Any other questions? Oh,
Just Captain Islander, you had mentioned there was some tricks to getting into your professions, ways that will help you get into firefighting.
Thank you for that call. So there's a lot of different avenues. My avenue is actually mostly construction. We like to see people that have trade experience. Also becoming a paramedic. Like I said, I got hired before I even finished school. That's a big step. People that have college degrees, that's a plus. Having a firefighter one academy, which is kind of a semester at CSM or different schools, is a must. So EMT and firefighter one are a must. High school diploma is a must. Anything beyond that is just kind of added and helps you get hired. It's a very competitive job to get into. Don't let that intimidate you. If you have everything, you'll get hired. Cal Fire is a great stepping stone. That's our fire service here, but they're the state fire department and they're seasonal jobs. So my son Tanner was a seasonal firefighter for Cal Fire. He made really good money over the summer and then he was able to finish with school. So you can go, I mean, this summer we had the Dixie Fire and all that, and he was out on fires all summer and he got a lot of overtime and did really good. So Cal Fire is a great stepping stone as well. So there's a lot of different avenues you can take. Oh, that was what I was supposed to say off the beginning. Military is very good, not just Coast Guard, but any military service is looked on very good, and it kind of gives you an added benefit. And then what you did in the military. My son Tanner specifically picked diesel mechanic. He's in the Coast Guard now because when he gets out, he wants to work for the fire department, and being a diesel mechanic is something that is helpful. I am not a diesel mechanic. I don't know how they work, but it's something for him that he wanted to do.
It's very similar. For application, we require some college for military service for entry-level positions. If you want to promote, you definitely need your college degree. Honestly, at this point with online education, even our sergeants have master's degrees at this point. So that's something different for law enforcement on this side of the country versus like the East Coast or down south, where law enforcement over there is almost treated more like a trade job. Here it's treated more like a profession. So like we actually do value education. People that want to finish their education will offer you money to cover your tuition expenses. My whole master's degree got paid for by tuition reimbursement, which was pretty awesome. As long as you do well, you have to get good grades, then you get the money back. So not a lot of jobs offer that. Military is a good stepping stone for sure because some of the skills translate. And then something that we have for those of you that are juniors or seniors, we actually hire correctional officers at 18 years old. So, if law enforcement is something that you think you might be interested in, that's a great stepping stone, a good foot in the door. You could be a correctional officer and work in our correctional facilities. And then you can promote from there to go be a deputy, which is the equivalent of like a police officer, and go work out on the street. And that's something that you guys can do at 18. And we're still offering hiring bonuses, I think, for correctional officers. So,
Christina's assistant, Victor, was talking about that.
yeah. You guys all have computers and phones and stuff. So if you just look up the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office and look at like recruiting or like hiring, you'll see that we offer hiring bonuses. I think correctional officers are still getting $15,000. So that seemed like a lot when I was in high school. Honestly, it seems like a lot right now. So if that sounds interesting to you guys, definitely check out our website. And we desperately need good people. So if it's something that you guys think you want to try, like we've all said, you don't have to do it for the rest of your life. Give it a try. It may end up being your career. It may end up just being something that you do along your bigger path. But check us out online because we really need people.
For us, if you can learn, then you're good. There are a couple tests that you can do to help promote your career, try to go forward. For operator, you need to take at least what's called a grade 1 away. Understand the mathematics behind it, which are not very advanced. It's just, you have to make sure all your ducks are lined up in a row. But other than that, it's just waiting for an opening. There are not a lot of open positions. When there is one, they're very coveted. People try to get in there as much as they can. There's a lot of people who are going to be retiring from the industry in the next few years. You are primed for that industry right now. Just keep your ears open and just kind of look open for different things available if that's what you're looking for, and you can get in right out of high school and, like I said, start making really good money. And also the benefits are really good. If you've ever looked at retirement, I'm going to be able to retire at 62. You guys, if you don't do a union, you're looking at 70. It's just something to think about.
That's probably it. Okay, so that's it for today. Can we give a big round of applause for our panelists?